Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition. It's July 7th, 2020. We've made it halfway through the crazy 2020.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, only another half to go. Well, I'm Gavin Pickens, software consultant for Order Solutions, and my guest host, well, I guess you're not really a guest, but the other host today is Eric Peterson.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. We get to mix it up a little bit here and there. But yeah, so let's get straight into it. We want to first thank our sponsors, Order Solutions, who are our employers, but also they basically fund this podcast. So if you were looking for live training from your favorite box product, Order Solutions has you covered. This month, we already have 2 live workshops scheduled. So this week, I'm going to be leading the ColdBox Zero to Hero on July 9th and 10th. So there's a couple of spots left. Sign up if you want to do that Thursday and Friday. And then in a couple weeks' time, Luis Mahano, the box creator himself, will be teaching the ColdBox Hero to Superhero API Edition, July 23rd and 24th. And also, CFCast subscriptions are now available, right, Eric?
That's right. It launched last week. So you can go ahead and grab a subscription. And so far, there's the ColdBox Masterclass being put up over time right now that you can get a hold of. With more in the pipeline.
Yep, so we're working hard to get that masterclass rolled out. We wanted to give you guys content now, so we're working hard to get the rest of that out there. You can see the description up there, and has a lot of good content coming, but there's a lot of great stuff there too. Also, we want to thank our Patreon supporters, because without them, Orders would be footing the whole bill, but with our Patreon support, they're basically covering almost half of this podcast production costs. So we're really thankful for that. So thank you to all our Patreon supporters. And if you're looking to support Orders and the podcast, please go to patreon.com/ordersolutions and find a package that should suit you. So they're start from as little as $10 a month, and the higher you go, the more perks you get. And there's even a few where I think we raffle off firstborn children or something. There's some pretty big packages there.
Just call us Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, exactly. So Brad and Eric are coming up with some names for what the workshop after the superhero one will be. So superhero to demigod, something like that. So maybe we'll
superhero to Ordis employee.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's how a lot of us got here. That's how I started years and years ago, boot camp, 3-day boot camp. But yeah. So, okay. Well, that's enough thanking sponsors. Let's get into some news. So, the first, probably the biggest news event of the last week is another birthday. So,
yes, it was ColdFusion's birthday.
Yep, ColdFusion turned 25 on July 2nd. So, in 1995, a little company called Alaire launched ColdFusion. And it's, as Brad put it in his tweet, it's still kicking butt and taking names. But yeah, we're all proud to be part of CS legacy, and many years forward, basically. There's a lot still coming. I mean, Lucy's going strong with the Lucy 6 being announced, and it's coming out soon. And then 2020 from Adobe is coming out later this year as well, if everything goes to plan. So a lot of good things coming. So 25 years. Some of us have been doing it for a long time, but Eric's only been doing it for a few years. He's just jumped the queue, basically. So what is it now?
I got in on ColdFusion 10 was the first one I ever touched.
ColdFusion 10.
Make everybody laugh and say what an easy time I had.
Yeah,
and that's
cry.
True.
Yeah.
Ha.
Cool. Well, there was a blog post we released, but I think it's pretty big news. So last week you wrote a good blog post about CFCast tech stack, because I know a lot of people ask Orders, like, how do you build a modern app? What do you use? How do you do it? And everyone always asks when we release a commercial product. So this is a really great article about how you built it with the team and what's in it. So you want to tell us a little more about it?
Yeah. So just like you said, we have a lot of different frameworks and modules and ways to build things up. And so I gave a kind of a I would guess it's not a tell-all, but a sneak peek into how we built CFCasts. So there's some code samples there. It talks about all the different modules and how they tie together. It is a app built on ColdBox, on Quick for the database layer. It uses a inertia.js and Vue.js on the front end, which is an awesome way to have kind of the more responsive front end single page application without writing an API. In fact, you can go check out a video about it for free on CFCasts. And Tailwind CSS, which is my current CSS love. It's the best. So we go into all of those. There's a million links in it taking you to everything that we use, all the modules on ForgeBox, and how it all ties together.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that working, and yeah, the video, as you mentioned, on CFCast as well for free. So very cool. So yeah, definitely check that out. I mean, I've obviously been working with Otis for a long time, but it's still interesting for me to see how each project is built, and that one is using some new stuff, so I really enjoyed that. So
yeah, I think this is Ortis's first inertia app. So we released the CB inertia module and gave the presentation on it. This is kind of the flagship app for that. So if you're curious how it works and feels, just click around CFCast. That is inertia. You can see how fast it is, and it's all CFML routing, all CFML handlers. There's none of the traditional weight that a single page app kind of carries with it.
yeah, for sure. Very cool. Okay, and now after those good positive notes, we're going to have a slightly negative one here. So Russ Michaels, who's been running CFMLDeveloper.com for over 20 years now, is shutting down the service. So I best know Russ Michaels through his work with, I think it was CF Alive. So CF Alive was basically something like CF Fiddle that Adobe released, but basically you had like a little online ColdFusion text box, type in some code, you could run it and choose your engine. I think it ran Lucy, but I think he had maybe an Adobe version too. And so that, for the longest time, that was how I ran my ad hoc code before the command box REPL even. So that was a great service there. But reading his blog post saying why he's shutting it down and everything, I didn't even realize that the CFMLDeveloper.com was basically a way for freelance developers or small companies to have a dev or staging hosting. And so it was a free service that he set up to help developers, basically have some places to post their code for show clients. So it sounds like an amazing service. I'm surprised I didn't know more about it, but like I said, I use CF Alive a lot, but didn't really know about that. But it's sad. Everyone's starting to get maybe more command box stuff. Docker using nggrok to tunnel their way into their own machines. They don't need dev and staging servers quite so much, and the prices have come down. So it would have been a nice service, but yeah, it just doesn't have the people signing up like he used to, and understandable, I guess. But yeah, in the chat, Dan Cowds asked, saying he didn't know that either. He'd have students who would have used it more. So yeah, kind of sad that a good service that not nobody, but several people didn't know about. But yeah, he's done a lot of work for the community. So thank you, Russ.
Yeah. He gave a shout out to HostsTech in there. That was the company that had been sponsoring the hosting. And if you do need ColdFusion or Lucy hosting, he's got a link in there. I know I've used HostsTech before. They're great. So
they're great for small sites and everything. Obviously, they're shared hosting for a lot of the cheaper packages and everything. So that's just something to be aware of. But for a lot of things where it's just a random blog or something, not business critical, it works great. And I know a lot of sites that are business critical, they run there, and they work great a lot of the time too. But just if someone gets a BC site and takes all the traffic, or gets a DDoS or something, it could be struggling. But they have bigger packages too, and they're great support, and they got great swag too at the conferences. So always gonna check HostsTech out. Cool. Well, something else I didn't know this week. Did you know that ColdFusion Standards available free for use in education?
I did not.
So Charlie posted this on the ColdFusion.adobe.com portal, but like he says, most of us knew that it's being free for development use or whatever, but apparently education, students, teachers, staff can obtain standard CF licenses, and they can use it for learning. So they can't use it in production for those licenses, but still, you know, you could have development servers, shared class servers, you know, staging servers, you know, all that type of stuff, and all for free. So it's part of the FAQ, and the blog post here that Charlie wrote. It's a great one, gives you a lot more detail, and then obviously it links to all the places where he got that information. So that was definitely news to me, and pretty cool too, considering how many people complain that Adobe doesn't give enough free, you know, ColdFusion things.
Right. Right.
So.
Well, I think it's a good move. You know, I remember my college days and having basically every free Microsoft anything, trying to get me to use it after I graduated. So it's a good move by ColdFusion.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the stuff we did was, Microsoft Visual Studio, you know, VB and everything, and then PHP. When the web got big, everybody went to PHP because it was free and easily accessible. So,
right.
And I just said no. Cool. Well, it looks like Charlie's been busy with scheduling a couple more ColdFusion meetups as well. So we got a couple coming up here.
Yeah, this Thursday, July 9th at 12 p.m. Eastern, we have your best options to build modern front ends with JavaScript with Dan Wilson.
Yep.
So it sounds like he's going to be going through some of the more popular choices, React, Angular, Vue, and about why you would choose each one of them.
Yeah, I like how he emphasizes a lot of it comes down to not only your circumstances but your philosophy too. So, and that's why I think it fits so well for a lot of ColdFusion developers to go to Vue, because it's much like CFML tags, you know, like very similar to HTML. You just add a couple of things in and you get your Vue, you know, functionality. But some people like writing, you know, HTML inside of JavaScript inside of HTML inside of JavaScript, but I don't. But
it seems like with all of these, it depends on which one you started with.
Exactly. Yep.
If you started with Angular JS, you know, the original one, you're probably using Vue now because it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
And maybe you kept going with Angular, or you started with React and you're on that, or you're glutton for punishment and you've tried everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ember was very similar to React. It was more, you know, script-based.
Ember's been around longer than all of those, but it's kind of the dark horse, you know.
Yeah, well, I remember Sencha too. Sencha was very similar to that as well, you know. So there's definitely the history of them, and you sort of evolve over time, and some of them just more than others. But yep. Yeah. And then we have another one too by TJ VanToll. That's next week, July 16th. He's going to be talking about how native mobile development changed the way he writes web apps. So I think this is an interesting one, you know, sort of a lessons learned, you know, and yeah, I mean, you working on iOS and Android applications and actually learning something from it and coming back and, just change the way you think about web stuff.
Now, I've heard TJ talk before. I believe he works for NativeScript, so you're going to learn a little bit about what NativeScript is. It's kind of a React Native, Cordova, those kind of things. I think it's more on the side of compiling the native, though. But, so I think that's what he's going to be going in there. So that could be really interesting. That's Thursday, July 16th, so a week from Thursday.
Yep. And then the next week, we have another meetup, or basically a Adobe webinar this time, by Kailash Balahani, and he's been talking about understanding the what, when, and how the API manager architecture and its various components. And so a deep dive into the API manager and figure out, you know, basically how that works, and, you know, looking at components including data store, server, and Elasticsearch. So I guess it makes sense, but I never knew that it had the Elasticsearch component in there too. So
I did not either.
So interesting. And then the week after, Adobe has another webinar with Nimit Sharma, and that's going to be July 30th, and that'll be a bird's eye view of PMT, which is now my brain's gone. That's the
performance
monitoring tools.
Yeah,
performance monitoring tools. So bird's eye view of the architecture and how to harness its true potential. So that was pretty interesting, because I know that 2018 had the PMT, so I wonder if there's going to be any major upgrades in 2020. I'm on the pre-release, but I can't discuss it, but I'm just sort of curious, you know. A lot of times when they release these products, we always wonder how much are they going to work on them, update them, and tweak them. And I know previously we've mentioned they have done some updates to the PMT since it was released, but I'm kind of curious. So this will give us a bird's eye view and really dive into how that works. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to both of these because I don't know too much about either of them. Otis works with projects from Adobe and Lucy products, and a lot of times I'm on the Lucy one, so I don't get to dive into the new Adobe stuff as much as I would like. So I might have to get my skills up here.
It's neat that for the next 4 Thursdays, there's a webinar that we can attend.
Yep, there is, and we have an Otis one coming up, but we're still trying to decide what to do it on. So we'll have one there. We'll announce that next week, hopefully. So. We'll have to draw straws and see who's next. So I know it won't be Luis because he's doing a training. So probably won't be him. But
yeah, if you have something that you'd like to hear us present on, go ahead and drop us a line on the website or on Twitter, and we'll put it into the running.
Yep, and then that same applies to CFCast too. We didn't mention that earlier, but we're looking for content ideas. We got a schedule we're trying to build up for what recordings we should make. But if you have any preferences, we can try and move them to the top of the list. So
yeah, there's a page on CFCast, cfcast.com/support. You can drop us a line in there and tell us what you'd like to see. We probably have it on the list already, but it will help us know what we should be focusing on first.
Yep, exactly. And just a quick reminder here for the State of the CF Union. Basically, that's a great survey. It's been running since January. They did a partial update, I believe, in April, so about 3 months in, and we had 484 respondents at that point. I just sent a message over to Michaela at TerraTech asking when it will end and when will the partial results be updated to. So hopefully we'll have information next week on that, because we get that question a lot. But yeah, if we had 484 respondents in the first few months, hopefully another 3 months have passed, we might have another chunk, maybe we can get close to that 1,000. So TerraTech.com, you can take the survey there and you can see the partial results as well. And vote for our podcasts. We want some, we want some love too. Cool. Well, moving on, we next have conferences. So tangential to the Into the Box conference are all the workshops that we had to spread out due to availability. So this week I'm teaching the ColdBox Hero to Zero. Zero to Hero. Got to make sure I got the right way there. I'm not going to make you dumber, honest. Hopefully. But so July 9th and 10th, and it starts at 9 a.m. Central, so 7 a.m. Pacific, and then goes till 2 p.m. Pacific or 4 p.m. Central. 2-day workshop. We do give you time for lunch and and all that stuff as well. But 2-day workshop, we're going to cover a lot of great stuff. And then 2 weeks later, Luis is going to be talking about ColdBox Hero to Superhero API Edition. But yeah, a lot of great content. Eric did a big part of writing the ColdBox Zero to Hero, so you know it well. We've both taught it several times. So
yeah, I was going to say you are the expert on this, the veteran. This is probably your, 7th or 8th time through this workshop?
It might be. But yeah, the last couple had to fly solo because at the conferences, usually Eric and I will spin off, take turns, and one person will lead and the other one will help people and vice versa. So it's kind of strange to do the whole thing by myself, but it's okay. We're doing well. We're picking up stuff, and this week we're even going to make a pull request to CF Migrations to update some of the documentation. Someone was mentioning something about the documentation wasn't right, so I might even teach them how to make a pull request, and then they'll learn that too. So, but yeah, so 2 great workshops this month. Again, a couple spots left in mine this week. Sign up as soon as you hear this. You can find out more information on autosolutions.com/events, and I would love to see you there. Okay. Better tell you, podcast 10 is the coupon code to get 10% off, and if you're an ITB attendee, you can save 15% if you got the code. If not, contact us and we can get you a code to save some money on that. So definitely don't miss it out.
Well, there was one announcement this week that a lot of people have been waiting for. Last year at CF Summit, they brought back the Adobe ColdFusion Certification, and it is now available online.
Yep, since CF Summit East couldn't go ahead and the training was scrapped because of that, and the West one now has been going online as well. They had to move it all online, so the registration is now open. You can find out more about it on the adobe.com/product/ColdFusion-family/certificate.html. We'll post the link for
I'm
convenience.
sure you all got that, and you're all ready.
Yeah, Kiwi talking with an accent really fast, but yeah, so. Yeah, they've had a lot of a lot of success, a lot of requests for this, and so now it's online. I think it's really gonna blow up. So I know they had about 100 people passed at CF Summit last year. They had a pretty high pass rate, and I actually TA'd. Me and Brad helped TA Nolan's session, and it was really good to see the content. And every time I look at something like this, I always learn something. So it was pretty neat. So definitely recommend it. They've got lots of great video content, and then the interactive multi-choice test at the end. Okay, and then so next we did quickly mention that CF Summit West is actually going to be online now. So the date is tentatively in November. If you go to cfsummit.adobeevents.com, you'll see the site. You can register. It's a free registration, but no official blog post or announcement has been made. So at this point, just sign up, and I guess we'll find out when we find out. I haven't heard anything about speakers or anything yet, so I'm not sure if it's 1 day, 2 days. Are they going to have 5 tracks at once like they usually do when they're in person or not? So we don't know too much about it, but put on your calendar November, free conference from Adobe. So CF Camp, no news. So we'll just keep waiting there. Okay, so let's get into the blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. You want to tell us about the first one?
Yeah, we covered it a little bit before about Charlie's blog post about ColdFusion Standard available for free use in education.
Yep. And then next we have a blog from Ben Adel. So this one's talking about CF Document and how it intelligently reuses repeated image objects in Lucy. So I thought this one was pretty neat. I like the fact too that a lot of them, he includes videos or images to really help make some sense of it. But it was pretty good to read through. The good thing is he did some tests with local URLs as well as external URLs. But basically, when he had a repeating image with the exact same image path, he realized that it wasn't including each one in the PDF. So if you had it was 95K or something with this PDF here, and then when he added it multiple times, it only went up by 5 kilobytes more. So 10 images with 10 pages, so a lot more images, and only really was a small change in the size. So that shows that it's being smart. And if you had multiple images, then obviously it just does that, but it was only about 40% larger where there was with multiple images and that. So pretty neat. It was one of those things you'd hope it did, but you didn't really didn't really think about it because PDFs obviously encapsulate everything, so space is an issue.
Right, like you said, glad it does that. I would expect that and hope that, and that's the perfect Ben blog post, is showing that something you hope is working, or maybe not working.
Yep. Now we have a typical TerraTech blog post here about ColdFusion community guidelines, and so this one talks about the things that are happening, and Swansea Jack is the name of Lucy 6. I forgot the code name for that, but talking about all the good things happening in ColdFusion and saying that it's not dead, and we should really be learning through the community, and then so they basically put together some community guidelines, and so just one of those things you should probably read through it, and just one of those nice, more softer topics, but just be nice to fellow developers, give them more help than you ask for, just trying to make the whole community a better place. So nice fuzzy one to read there. So, but definitely need to have a strong community.
The next blog was one that was interesting to me, from Ben Nadal, about ColdFusion components versus ColdFusion closures performance exploration.
Yes, and this is the one that had the video, and I listened to it. the whole way through because I found it very interesting.
So, one of the reasons I found this interesting, we mentioned at the top of the show, like I came in ColdFusion 10, right? Didn't have any of the background, and so to read like that creating CFCs was expensive, like I had never heard that or seen that. That was interesting, and it made me wonder, Gavin, being around a little bit more, is that kind of why? Like Framework 1 is all one file? Was this idea that if I create multiple components, it's slow?
No, I mean Framework One was originally started to be simple. They just wanted to just throw one file in and then everything would work. You don't need to copy hundreds of files and whatever, and like ColdBox was big and confusing. So the whole idea with Framework One was, one file, and it started off small, but it grew and just add a little bit here, add a little bit there, and so it kind of grew into this God object, just like Blog CFC. It was a simple little CFC, and then it kept growing and growing, so it was some crazy God object. But I mean, that's the reason originally was just simplicity, and ColdFusion developers don't usually like frameworks very much, so keeping it simple, easy to understand, one file. I think that was more the reason, not necessarily the CFC, but it's possible. But it came out the same time as ColdBox 3 did, so that's when Sean Caulfield created Framework 1. So ColdBox 3, I don't remember exactly when that was, but it's probably around the CF10 timeline, so
Yeah.
so maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sorry for the tangent. So yeah, Ben's post talked about, gave an example of a builder pattern, one using closures, one using ColdFusion components, and gave some timing on it. And they're fast. They're both fast. You don't need to worry about it.
Yep. And then he did have some results here. His two takeaways was instantiating CFCs in Lucy is very fast. 100,000 instances in 2 seconds. Much better than he thought it would be. So it shows how outdated his mental model is, for that. And the other thing was closures is even faster. So as you can see in the numbers, closures to implement the same API was consistently faster, sometimes as much as 35% faster. But as you said, they're both fast. They're both very fast. And if you're making 100,000 instances of something, it's usually you should have a good reason for it, and then it might be worth waiting a second or two for that to happen. So.
But like you said at the top of this, when you started running the numbers, like these kind of performance tests are interesting, but not really indicative of your real world performance. And also always measure before you change things. You might be in a situation where the closure that you're creating is, I've seen this in a couple of engines, holding on to the scope and creating kind of a memory leak situation. Mm-hmm. And that might not be faster. That might be a problem. So definitely measure and then change instead of just using this blog post to say, I have to use closures for everything.
Yep. Now, one of the things too, a couple weeks back, I think we mentioned that there was a Lucy bug that somebody found where creating new ColdFusion objects for one of our clients. I think it was last week. Me and Brad talked about it. For one of our clients, we were creating a lot of ColdFusion instances through Java, and so the Java proxy. If you create a new Java proxy every time, it was dramatically slowing things down.
Yeah, it had to do with Lucy 5 and creating Java objects that were located in OSGI bundles.
Yep.
It seems to be looking up that every time.
Yeah, so slow lookups. And so that was a huge performance issue. But Brad talked about how he just created the ColdFusion proxy for the Java, and then once he had that, then it was very quick. So it was the proxy creation that seemed to take the time. And so once he'd taken care of that, it was a lot quicker. So there can be side effects.
Yeah, I think specifically it was the lookup that was taking time, and because he's caching the proxy object, you aren't doing the lookup every time.
Yeah.
I'd assume if we dove in that creating the object is fast, but the lookup was the expensive part.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Just wanted to make a side note for that for everyone who said, wait a minute, last week you guys said it was slow. There's a difference. There's a reason.
Yeah. It was specifically Java objects with inside OSGI bundles.
Yep.
So.
Cool. So next we got a tweet from James Marburg.
Yeah, this one's about emojis.
Yep.
Emojis cause problems.
Yeah, exactly.
They're amazing, but like, I guess if you haven't ever I will need to find the talk and throw it in the show notes. But there's a talk about Unicode and how insane it actually is to support all the different texts. And this tweet from James talks about how encode for HTML does not do well with emojis, and his workaround using the emoji Java library and the CFMLD Java wrapper to switch out the emoji for like a placeholder, kind of like you see on GitHub or Slack, the colon syntax, and then have it encode it back into something that the browser will show as an emoji.
Cool. Very sneaky. I know of all the things we like having emojis, but yeah, getting all the database and the drivers and everything to play well, that can be trouble. So I saw that and I'm like, well, we definitely need to talk about this with our emoji history. Cool. Next, we just reiterate about the blog post about CFCast tech stack revealed, so we can skip that one since we talked about it earlier. And then this one is not ColdFusion, but it's JavaScript, and I thought it was pretty interesting too. I do not have I have a pretty good understanding of JavaScript, but not the edge cases, and this double bang operator is definitely an edge case for me.
So. Yeah, this one actually does apply pretty well to ColdFusion, with the caveat that what is truthy and falsy might be a bit different. But Ben Nadal wrote this one. The double bang operator is kind of a bit of a misnomer. The bang or exclamation point negates something, right? It means not. And so double bang just does not. And usually people use it to explicitly make something a Boolean, right? So if you have an empty array and you put the double bang in front, it will become false, right? Because an empty array is falsy and it makes it false, the Boolean. And Ben just goes into how in most cases where he sees it, that's extra work, because JavaScript and CFML will handle truthy and falsy values. You don't have to explicitly cast them. And so just pass in the value unless you need it to be explicit Boolean.
Yeah, and so he basically went through the Envision app code and looked for all the use cases, and he found the unnecessary ones and sort of explained why, which is really neat. Like I said, this is the type of thing that I need for, just getting up to speed. And I've seen the double bang before, but it was one of those things that I'd seen it, never really thought too much about it and what it did. So interesting. I like those little hacks people use, though.
I thought it was interesting, and it's good to know how the system's working. I definitely have been guilty of using like an unnecessary double bang, mostly for my like readability. Sometimes when I'm doing an if check on like a variable I know is like an array, my brain just doesn't parse that right.
Yeah.
But it's good to know. And again, this applies very well to ColdFusion as well as JavaScript.
Cool. And so he double bang operator and ternary expressions, an array filtering, React, CX and class names, AngularJS directives. So he gives quite a few examples. It's pretty interesting. And then Brad in the chat was actually saying that he uses the double bang in CFconfig because he needs explicit booleans in the WDDX files that ACF uses. So ACF uses WDDX for all its configuration settings, and Lucy uses XML and everything, but the WDDX requires explicit boolean, so that works pretty good. So interesting. Thanks again, Ben.
Speaking of Ben, we got another one from him about using CF Document to save InVision prototypes as interactive PDFs. I thought this was, yeah. I mean, PDFs are and ColdFusion support of it is probably a reason why a lot of people used ColdFusion. I know the first time I encountered it, that was a big part, that we could create these documents, with the CF document tag. And this was a use case I hadn't seen before, where Ben is adding in links to other other PDF pages inside the document.
Yeah, pretty sneaky. I definitely like that.
So there's a wonderful video of it that you can watch going through, and I think there was a GIF at the end, right?
Yeah,
I do love me a good GIF. Yep, where he's clicking around like a wizard view.
Yep. So the
Yep.
PDF itself jumps pages. It's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
it's pretty cool. So.
Yep. And as Ben would say, is it cool chickens?
Yeah. Oh, something chickens. Yeah. Oh
Holy
no.
chickens or cool. For some reason I thought it was cool
Someone
chickens.
in the chat, help us.
Yeah. I know I heard it before because I watched the video, but yeah, it was definitely pretty interesting. So yeah, nice to see. And then James Marburg wrote a blog post. Last week we talked about the horror of isDate in ColdFusion and Lucy, and so he tried to respond to that blog, but as most good comment tools do, they think everything is spam. So he couldn't. So he couldn't do that. So he responded basically with a blog post on his own blog site.
Yeah, and I love the takeaway. It was you can use isDate, isValidate, and parse it as a date. It made me think about email validation. I don't know if you've ever seen those regex.
Oh, and they're all
like
wrong.
This huge one. Well, and they're trying to do everything. And at the end of the day, because emails are insane, right? Emails are just as bad as like Unicode in some ways. The only way to know if you have a valid email is to try to send an email.
Yeah, and that's actually what Mailgun does when you're using their validation. They actually send an email. So
there you go. Yeah. See, and I thought of that with I saw this parse date time. The only way to know if you have a date is try to parse it as a date. So.
Yeah. But it was pretty interesting. He also says that a year ago that 12/31/2922789993 was considered valid. So there's a couple of bug tracker tickets there too, which is pretty interesting. But
so, wait, a year ago it was considered valid, but now it's not?
They might have had an update since.
I mean,
maybe
one day that will be a valid date, right? If the world goes on that long?
Probably not. Considering, actually, I found another bug with dates. You can't get past 2050. If you try and create a date in 2051 or further up, it assumes you mean 1951. Even though you put 2051 in it, it'll still convert it back to 1951.
Oh, yikes.
So I always do the thing where I add so many years to it for like I don't want this to expire anytime soon. Yeah, and it was showing up as expired already. I'm like, what?
Oh, man.
So I basically figured out it was right at 2050 is when it said that's enough. So I think it was part of the. Actually, it might have been 2030 because it was. Maybe it was 2030 because I think it was because of the 2000 Y2K bug. They pushed everything back, 20 years or whatever, basically. That's why in 2020, a whole bunch of stuff broke, a whole bunch of, PlayStation, Xbox stuff, online gaming stuff, all had all sorts of issues because of the Y2K bug. It was a cheap, hacky way to get around it. And then, basically it's affecting, and it's in the Java itself. I actually got down, it wasn't ColdFusion or Lucy, it was actually in the Java stuff that was blowing up. So it was pretty interesting. So, tangent over.
Yeah. Dates cause problems for me over in QB all the time as well. QB and Quick, I'll have somebody send in something saying, hey, what was the latest? Oh, I tried to save this version number. 1.2.3, and all of a sudden I have a date of January 2nd of 1903. And it's like, you got to be explicit with dates, unfortunately. It tries to be a little too helpful.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue. Okay, well, apparently there's a recap blog post here next on our list after the Russ Michaels CFMLDeveloper shutting down. So TerraTech is just talking about Lucy 6, and so it was actually announced in 2018's CF Camp, but it does give you some more information on it. So Swansea Jack, and they're usually named after dogs, right? That's where it all came from. So names a lot of times are named after dogs. But so if you want to find more about what we expect from Lucy 6, some of the security upgrades, pros and cons of a quarantine mode, which this is interesting. I guess big part of the security thing is that quarantine mode. So we'll have to find out more about that. And who was Swansea Jack? So a lot of information there.
The quarantine mode is kind of interesting. It's basically getting all of your code pre-compiled and only running the code that's uploaded to it. So there's no way to upload a CFM file and run it like that. So That's a good idea. It's going to be interesting to see. I remember hearing about this at CF Camp last year, and my favorite thing was, well, there was a couple Java interop, like marking a component as implementing a Java interface, which right now you have to do that using create dynamic proxy, and it's just kind of an extra layer. That, and they were going to bring the startup time to Lucy under like 0.5 seconds. A lot of work getting it ready for serverless deploying.
Very cool.
Or improving the serverless story. So I'm excited to see all those things come out. I don't think we have any like beta or date. It's just kind of, this article is just a recap of what we know about Lucy 6.
Yeah, so it was posted recently, but yeah, a lot of the data is from the CF Camp almost 2 years ago, and then other updates that are being leaked out. So a good compilation of everything Lucy 6 that we know of at this time. So next we have a throwback. So this one is Ryan Anklam, and so he was a popular speaker at CF Objective back in the day, and he eventually went to Netflix. Last I heard, I think he was still there, but this is a throwback to when he was a hardcore ColdFusion developer. See little ColdFusion icons there. He's got the rack next to him and stuff, so pretty interesting. But yeah, but look here, the fat JavaScript book holding up the monitor is definitely not the good parts. But yeah, so just a little throwback there. So I hope Brian's doing well. Cool. Well, that leads us to our next section, which is Find a Job. And this week we actually do have a couple of jobs posted. So it looks like they're looking for a full-time ColdFusion developer at it looks like other countries. So it's freelancer or contractor at remote. So I guess that was posted on July 1st. And then there was a ColdFusion developer, freelancer, contractor, or remote in India, also posted on July 1st. So 2 new jobs. We're at 47 ColdFusion positions from 35 companies across 23 locations in 5 countries. So a good number of job postings out there. Again, thanks for Get CFML Jobs for scraping all those different job sites and bringing us all the job listings. So if you're looking for work, definitely look there first. Okay, so now onto ForgeBox Module of the Week. So this one's the one what we've been using in CFCast. So you want to tell us a little bit about this?
You can read a little bit about it on that article too, but this is the Stripe CFML module by John Bearquist. You can find it up on ForgeBox. It's modeled after the Node SDK, minus the callback hell. It's everything you need to talk to Stripe, and we love Stripe. Stripe is amazing. So yeah, I guess the news about this one is it is just rock solid. It does exactly what it needs to do. We haven't had any problems with it. Haven't had to go dive into any bugs or anything. So yeah,
Yep.
thank you, John, for saving us hours of writing it ourselves.
Yep, and there's a lot of great information on this ForgeBox page too. It's really comprehensive. So yeah, really good to see a nice, solid Stripe implementation. I know that there's quite a few other payment gateways out there, but yeah, that's definitely a big winner for a lot of people. And yeah, we're using it.
I refuse to acknowledge any other payment gateway. It's only Stripe.
Well, last week we talked about a new wrapper that was on ForgeBox, and it was actually like a sort of a Bitcoin type one, so digital currencies and everything. So I thought that was interesting, but yeah, I probably still wouldn't touch it, just because I'm old-fashioned. Okay, so this is an interesting one for our Visual Studio Code hints, tips, and tricks of the week. This one is GitHub pull requests and issues by GitHub. So I'd never heard of this one. I saw it fly over the Twitterverse, and so I thought something we should definitely talk about. So it's got a lot of features.
Yeah, and it keeps getting updated. Because I took a look at this back at Build, and when was that? Was that in March? May? I don't know. Microsoft's free Build conference this year, they announced this. And it keeps getting better, mostly with some inline viewing, like you're seeing on the screen, being able to see a PR inline and all the changes. I've been using this today as I've been kind of debugging some stuff. I'll be over in like Quick. I'll find what I need to do, select some text, and there's a nice create issue from selection. And all of a sudden I have an issue created with a link exactly to the code that I'm trying to reference. So
yeah, it's pretty cool that you can just, add comments and discuss right in there, and it's just, another feature to make VS Code a little more flexible and powerful, And it's nice too that if you're in your code, it's easier to see than, up on GitHub sometimes. So yeah, you can, there's code actions to create issues from your to-do comments as well, so that's kind of neat as well. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So pretty happy with that.
One neat thing with the to-do comment I saw earlier. So yeah, if you put a to-do in your code, it will give you a little pop-up that says, would you like to create an issue for this? And when you do it, we'll paste the link in to the code to-do comment. And then you can just hover over it to see all the details, all the conversation. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah. So pretty neat. Definitely worth checking out. There's some information for configuring the extension as well. And then, yeah, there's information here if you want to actually contribute. So check it out. And pretty cool little hint, tip, and trick of the week there for you. Okay, so that leads us to our last thing of the week, our Patreon supporters. So again, as we mentioned at the start of the episode, they're funding almost 50% of the costs of creating these podcasts and making them available to you. But they're also, support us with our projects like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, and all the other boxes. So if you want to find out more about supporting Audis through Patreon, go to patreon.com/AudisSolutions. Find a package that works for you, and then you might be listed as one of the special people on our Patreon supporter list and get your name mentioned every week. Badly pronounced, but still mentioned.
Badly pronounced with love.
Yeah, exactly. So, is it your turn this week?
Let's do it. Thank you to Ben Nadal, Brett DeLine, Carl Van Stetten, Charlie Earhart, Dali, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Lesnicki, Dom Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeremy Adams, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamery, Kai Koenig, Laxma Titrahadi, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Ryan Hughes, Scott Steinbeck, Sean Odin, Stephen Klotz, Synaptrix, and Yogesh Mathur.
Yeah, thank you everybody who are financially supporting us, the podcast, and Audis's products. But also thanks to everyone who commits, code issues, files issues, and those types of things, because they all do help. But you don't get your name on the list just for that. So, sorry. Anyways, but it's been another great week. Happy July. Hope everyone had a safe and happy 4th of July and avoided most of the illegals fireworks that were going off everywhere. But yeah, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget to sign up to my workshop this week.
We'll see you guys.
Have a good one. Bye, everybody. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.